Hello and welcome to Training Tuesday, where we go through weekly tips and tricks to make your career just a little bit more awesome. This week we are digging into imposter syndrome, which is something that even the most impressive, amazing, ambitious women suffer from time to time. And imposter syndrome is the feeling, of course, of feeling like an imposter, right? It's feeling like a fraud when you're in a situation, particularly coming up pretty badly when you're in a new situation, something you haven't done before. And a lot of times for people, it can show up either internally as those voices in the back of your head saying, oh my gosh, who am I to do this? Can I really handle it, right? It's that feeling of not enoughness. Or it shows up externally in some manifestation of saying something along the lines of, oh, well, I just got lucky, no big. And a lot of people use those self-deprecating kind of words because it feels more comfortable than saying thank you, just thank you, which by the way is enough. Okay, and so if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, I want to really acknowledge the fact that some research has shown that high achievers particularly struggle with imposter syndrome because they have spent their whole life being compared to others. And even though in the past, right, it's always been as you're the super stellar one, you're the smartest, you're the best, they were put in a comparison inherently. And even though they've always won out in the past, it makes it challenging to take a high achiever and put that big fish into an even bigger pond with other big fish and have them not freak out a little bit. So if it's coming up for you, if you consider yourself to be a high achiever and you're starting to see that imposter syndrome come up when you're making a next step in your role, in your business, in whatever, totally reasonable. I get it. It happens, but let's dig into it because the truth is the time you spend getting wrapped up in imposter syndrome is time being taken away from great work, and that's never what we want. Okay, and so if you are struggling from imposter syndrome, there's 3 things I want you to start by doing. First and foremost, I want you to realize that everyone feels this way at some point. I can tell you from every single client I've worked with, I've never had someone who was like, imposter syndrome, what's that? I've always felt super confident in this. Not a once. And it's important to sometimes humanize this experience. So think about someone who you consider to be really confident and think about the nerves they maybe have felt when they were doing something new. So I like to remember that even Beyonce probably had nerves on the night before she tried something really big at some point in her life. And that's a really good way to humanize the experience for me of like, wait a second, everyone probably feels this way at some point. So start by humanizing the experience, visualizing someone who you really admire feeling that feeling. 2, I want you to make a list of your wins. So if you need that kind of confidence burst and you're doing something new and you're feeling a little apprehensive about it, you can always start with a list of some of the things that have been successes, some of the positive feedback you've gotten, pull that all into somewhere where you can easily access it, that you can read through if you're feeling a little bit of a confidence dip, and make a list of times that you've done those things, right? So if you're moving into a new role and you're like, oh, how am I really gonna do this? Make a list of times you've practiced those skills already and remind yourself you can do it. Especially if you really struggle with saying that, oh, I just got lucky piece too, you can do a variation of this exercise where if you ever catch yourself saying, I just got lucky, I want you to pause, go get a piece of paper, and write out all of the work you put in to make that thing happen, because I guarantee it wasn't luck alone. You can 100% appreciate the privilege you had and the things that did feel like luck and the work you put in, because I guarantee it's not just luck or just work. It's probably some combination of the both, okay? And then the 3rd thing I want you to do is focus on teaching someone something that you know, something that you learned, something that you weren't necessarily an expert at before, but now have mastered, to remind yourself, wait a second, I wasn't always the expert at that, but now I am, enough so that I can teach others. And it's a wonderful way to get out of imposter syndrome zone and actually remember that you can learn great things that you've never done before, and that's how you get better, right? So focus on progress over perfection, focus on learning on these things, focus on your wins, acknowledge that everyone has felt imposter syndrome at some point, and try those tips on for size. If you need additional support, you can always reach out to me. And in the meantime, happy working.